What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Betting the House. This is episode 5 on the Alithio Network, always live. Don't forget to check out the Alithio Network's other shows like Chicago Hockey Radio, Forum Blues, Good Morning Hockey, Let's Cool One. All right. Like always, on Tuesdays, we'll be talking about Major League Baseball, the WNBA, a little bit of college football, and some NHL game. First day of the regular season coming up now. But before that, we got a gambling warning. The following content may discuss topics related to gambling. Gambling can be addictive and is not suitable for all individuals. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, help is available. In the U.S., contact the National Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-522-4700 or visit www.ncpgambling.org for resources and support. Illinois residents can also contact 1-800-426-2537 for local assistance. Please gamble responsibly and be aware of the risks involved. Must be 21 years or older if gambling in Illinois. All right. Without further ado, let's recap Thursday's bets. Over in the NFL, on Thursday Night Football, I had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at plus 1.5. They lost by 6. Cousins went off for 500-plus yards on Matt Ryan night in front of Matt Ryan in Atlanta, so can't be too salty about that. Moving over to Sunday, I had Jets-Vikings over 40.5. They ended at 40. Needed 1 point. And the Jets, 4 turnovers, including an Aaron Rodgers interception at the Minnesota 9-yard line, with 49 seconds left. Later game, Washington blew out my bet which was -3 at -120 odds. They won, I think, by 20 plus, I want to say. Moving over into college football, Thursday night's game, I had Sam Houston State at -10.5. Blew them out of the water again. I think they won by 20, I want to say. Saturday's game, number 9, Missouri, didn't do so hot on their first game on the road. They dropped it in Texas A&M. So my plus 2.5 for Missouri did not hit. In the NHL, though, Friday, games in Prague. New Jersey takes the dub with the money line bet at -144 odds. Hell yeah. Moving into UFC, Saturday, Dolidze absolutely hit. Moneyline upset win, knockout, plus 124, as well as my Pereira by knockout or TKO at -270. The only one that didn't hit was my Pennington by points at plus 110. She lost by split decision, probably because of the 3-4 Pena takedowns. That definitely hurt her. Although, altogether, 5 out of 9, not too bad. We're trending up, boys. Let's go. All right, let's move into actual bets coming up for tonight and tomorrow. Over in Major League Baseball, tonight we have all National League games on tonight. Phillies, Mets, 4 p.m. I honestly think it's Phillies' money line here. Like I said, it's only the National League taking the stage tonight. Starting in Queens at 4 p.m. After splitting the first 2 games in Philly, grabbing this third game is going to be crucial because the winner of this game, Game 3, usually goes on to win the 5-game series. With 2 veteran pitchers taking the mound tonight, the books have this one as close to near impossible as a dead heat. For me, I like the Phillies a little bit more, although the Mets have been hot, but losing the way they did on Sunday is tough. That's why I went Phillies money line. Aaron Nola got hit hard by the Mets a month ago, giving up 6 runs, failing to get through the 5th inning. Still, his postseason experience in big moments, I trust it. Manaea also pitched well for the Mets in his last start against the Phillies, but he absolutely got knocked around by the Brewers in the wild card round. The Phillies were near the top of baseball against left-handed pitching this year, and I think we could be in to this Mets bullpen pretty early on Tuesday. That one I do not trust. The Mets bullpen, do not trust. Edwin Diaz sure knows how to blow a save with the best of them, but I don't think the Mets will get to that situation on Tuesday. Give me the Mets to hit and pitch their way to a win in a critical Game 3. Moving on, 8 p.m. tonight, Dodgers versus Padres in San Diego. I have the Padres money line at minus 152 odds. Here's why. The Phillies and the Mets, they don't like each other, but the Dodgers and Padres hate each other, especially following Sunday's very controversial Game 2.
Yeah, you want to talk about that for a bit?
Yeah.
I mean, just the fans themselves being that rowdy is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, throwing beers like that, it hasn't gotten crazy like that in probably 15, 20 years. Like, nothing comes to mind when I think baseball like that.
Yeah. I mean, I had never even known this was a thing, I guess, really, before watching that happen on Sunday. Like we were saying, there were all kinds of shenanigans in the actual contest, but even the LA fans got involved. It did not go well for them. San Diego rolled over them 10-2. The Padres have been the best team in baseball since the All-Star break, and absolutely remained on that heater, sweeping the Braves in the wild card. I think they just seem like the better, hungrier, and hotter team right now, even though the Dodgers are favored in the series. It might not be a good thing for LA, but it is, they are playing with more pressure on them, if so to speak. Tuesday's pitching matchup heavily favors the Padres. Michael King lights out against Atlanta last week, while Walker Buehler, not great this year. Michael King's got.
Did you hear about what happened with him recently?
King or Buehler?
Buehler.
No, what happened?
Buehler and his wife were at I want to say like Amita, California, somewhere in the, nice area where we're riding horses. And a mob of fans from San Diego stole his $100,000 watch.
Jeez.
So he's got a chip on his shoulder, I think, going into this game.
Fair. Yeah. Fair. I mean, I don't know. I still like the Padres just because I think they're getting it done. I don't see a way, unless Bueller's just going off perfect game or whatever, no hitter. I don't think he can pitch 9 innings without the Padres teeing up on him at some point. Those are the only 2 games today. But on Wednesday, tomorrow, we've got all 4 divisional series playing. In the AL, it's only Game 3. So Cleveland Guardians finally go to Detroit after splitting the series in Cleveland. Honestly, I think the Tigers, I like them a lot. I just don't know if they get it done in this first game in Detroit. That's why I took them at Tigers plus 1.5 at minus 192 odds. That game is also happening at 2 p.m. Central Time in Detroit. Moving on to the next game, it's a National League game as the Phillies and the Mets play again in New York at 4. This game, I do have New York coming back to force a Game 5. The odds are minus 104. I think it's a pretty great steal. Yeah. I think they've just been, red hot. And if they drop the game today, they have to win or they're out, Back in the AL, we've got the Yankees in Kansas City taking on the Royals at 6. Honestly, I really like the Royals. I think Royals money line at plus 102 is a great steal. Kind of like how I think this game is going to go. I think they're going to steal it right or close or right at the end, if that makes sense. Yeah, the Yankees just have not been doing it for me. I don't know what to say else about that. And then again, moving on, last game of the night, Dodgers at Padres, 8 p.m. Honestly, I think Dodgers have to take this one and force that game 5 again. So, like I said, both National League Divisional Series going to game 5. It should be fun. Those odds on Dodgers money line, by the way, are plus 132. Keep in mind, all 4 of those games, and even the ones later tonight, are all subject to change odds-wise. So, whatever you're thinking, do it quick, I guess, before the odds get worse or you find out something happens. All right, let's move over to the WNBA. Tonight, only one game. Connecticut Sun against the Minnesota Lynx, 7 p.m. Honestly, I have Sun at plus 4.5 right now at minus 110 odds. You know, it's game 5, deciding game of this side of the semifinals. I think I have to go with the team with the best player. I know it sounds a little simple, but, you know, throughout the history of basketball and, you know, what type of people make it to the finals, and you see the cream of the crop rise to the top. You know, Collier has been the best player in this series. You know, although Thomas has a case for Connecticut, but I think with the series on the line, I would rather take the elite scorer instead of the all-around player, who might as well finish with more boards and assists and points. You know, Minnesota could have closed it last game, but they went ice cold from outside. Perimeter shooters prefer to play at home. You know, Carlton and McBride shot over 40% from 3 in the regular season. I don't think they go 3 for 12 again like they did last game. Another interesting choice by Connecticut is they actually just moved their top scorer to the bench. You know, Mabry's now playing a 6th-man role, and they just don't have the same scoring potential with her off the floor. And I think they start trailing early, even with their strong defense. You know, Minnesota has a second in the finished second in the regular season in fewest points allowed. They're also the only team with a player averaging over 26 points per game in the playoffs. Yeah, like I said, Sun plus 4.5, minus 110 odds. Moving over to college football. Tonight's game, and one and only game, is Florida International taking on Liberty University, 6 p.m. You know, the Florida International Panthers face off against the Flames on the road. You know, FIU's coming off a 17-10 win over Louisiana Tech last week in September. However, they recently lost to FCS Monmouth 45-42, September 21st. You know, last season Liberty dominated FIU, limiting them to 211 total yards. Liberty's 4-0, including 2-0 in conference, and hasn't played since September 21st due to a canceled game in Week 5. In their last game, though, they beat East Carolina 35-24. Liberty's defense has struggled with big plays, but I think FIU's offense lacks firepower, and the Flames are well-rested and ready for a home crowd. That's why I'm taking Liberty minus 17.5 at minus 102 odds. Moving on to tomorrow's college football game. And one and only game. It's New Mexico State at Jacksonville State, 6:30 Central Time. I'm taking the over, which in this case is 58.5 at minus 115 odds. You know, the Aggies travel to Alabama for this midweek conference matchup. They've scored 40 points in their rivalry game against New Mexico on September 28th, but allowed 50, you know, failing to cover that 9-point underdogs. They've given up 30-plus points in all 4 of their FBS games and scored just 11 total points in 2 road games, including a 48-0 loss to Fresno State. Whereas the Gamecocks, on the other hand, after starting 0-3, have bounced back with big wins, including a 63-24 road victory over Kennesaw State. Despite the short recovery time, I think the offense has been strong, averaging 47 points in the last 3 games, with the over hitting in 4 of 5 games. I love it. I think it's a lock. We'll see. Moving over on to NHL tonight. The rest of the teams in the NHL have their first game of the season tonight or tomorrow night. The 3 tonight are the St. Louis Blues in Seattle taking on the Kraken at 3:30. I'm not really going to talk a lot about this one because it's the least apropos and least interesting of the 3 tonight. But I think I'd take Kraken at minus 140 odds. Second game of the night, Boston Bruins in Florida taking on the champs and the Florida Panthers, 6 p.m. I'm taking the under, which is 5.5 at even odds, plus 100. They kick off tonight with this huge matchup between hopeful Stanley Cup champions for this season, the Bruins and the Panthers. They've seen a lot of each other over the past 2 seasons, with the playoff series in both 23 and 24. The Panthers coming off a huge Cup championship. Their opening day roster has many changes to the one they lifted the Cup with. They lost Montour to the Kraken, Tarasenko to the Red Wings, both in free agency, and both were extremely important in their power play, which probably takes a step back without 40% of their top unit from the previous year. The Bruins, also super busy in free agency. They lost Jake DeBrusk, among others, while bringing in size and physicality with Nikita Zadorov. Coming off the extension signing by Jeremy Swayman, I think they're a fundamentally sound defensive team this year. Star goaltender, huge group of seasoned vets, and a great head coach. They're so familiar with each other, playing 13 post games against one another in the past. Postseason games against one another in the past 2 years, meaning it's going to be hard fought, physical, not a lot of open ice to take the puck and score. That's why I'm going under 5.5 at plus 100 odds. Chicago Blackhawks, represent. They are in Utah taking on the Hockey Club tonight, 9 p.m. Honestly, I think Utah takes it by 2 goals or more, and the odds of that are plus 142. I like them in this inaugural game. They kept a lot of the key players from the 2023-24 Coyotes, as well as some young guys like Clayton Keller, who has nowhere to go but up. I think it's fair to say that Arizona was somewhat decent last year despite finishing 7th in the Central Division. Utah, in the preseason, Utah went 5-2, beating the Avalanche twice in the process. And on the other side, Chicago only went 1-5-1 in the preseason. With plenty of new players on their roster, the Blackhawks will definitely need some time to gel things together. So I expect them to lose this opening game, which kind of sucks, but whatever. Moving on to Wednesday. First game of the night is the Toronto Maple Leafs playing in Montreal against the Canadiens, 6 p.m. First of all, I don't bet on the Maple Leafs. I think it's just you're bound to be unhappy. So I took the Canadiens plus 1.5, minus 170. Moving on to the second game, we've got the New York Rangers in Pittsburgh taking on Sid and the Penguins, 6:30. I have New York money line at minus 138. The Rangers come into this with clearly one of the most cohesive and bound teams right now. They bring back almost their entire lineup from the team that led the Eastern Conference in wins and points last season. The Pens, on the other hand, adjusting to some roster changes and tinkering with some of their special teams units as they try to avoid having, again, one of the worst power plays in the NHL. I think the Penguins eventually hit their stride and look like a good threat in the playoffs, but I think they struggle out of the gate. And I don't think the Rangers have any such issues with so much continuity and camaraderie on theirs. New York Rangers money line, minus 138 odds. Next game, Winnipeg Jets in Edmonton against the Oilers, 9 p.m. I have Edmonton minus 1.5 at plus 146 odds. Last season, these two teams faced off against each other 3 times, with Edmonton winning 2 out of the 3. Edmonton has a fantastic offense. Last season, they ranked 4th in goals per game and 1st in shots. McDavid led the Oilers with 132 points. That was 3rd in the league in points, for anyone wondering. The defense and goaltending were good last season, too, for Edmonton. 10th in goals against per game and 5th in shots against per game last season. Skinner had a record of 36, 16, and 5 with a 2.62 goals against and a .905 save percentage. I think the Oilers start this season on a high note and win this contest by 2 or more goals. Moving over to the other side of Canada, Calgary and travels to Vancouver to take on the Canucks. I don't have a lot to talk about in this game. I bet on the Flames plus 1.5 at minus 142 odds. Again, I don't have a lot to talk about. 2 teams I don't watch as much. I think that's sort of just a safe bet right there. And last but not least, I've got the Colorado Avalanche traveling to Vegas to take on the Golden Knights at 9 p.m. also. This one, very easy. I think it's just the Knights take it money line at minus 110 odds. Let's see. That's all I've really got.
I think one that you missed a little bit earlier about Utah, I was seeing just from CBS as well that they're really heavy on the under today for Utah. I think it's under 6.5.
Okay, and what are those odds?
I am not sure.
Okay, well, look into that before you guys smash any kind of bet.
But I recommend that bet. That is the one that stuck out to me.
Yeah, definitely looks pretty good right there. Yeah, I mean, that, like I said, that's all I've really got today. Without further ado, have a great night, you guys. Tune in for more this Thursday, 11 a.m. on the Alithio Network YouTube page. Don't forget to check out the network's other shows like Chicago Hockey Radio, Forum Blues, Good Morning Hockey, Let's Cool One. They're available everywhere. The audio for this will be available shortly after the live ends. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube or smash 5-star ratings and follow on Spotify and Apple Pods. Have a good night. Peace.